All your health records, your tests, prescriptions, notes from the doctors, all at the click of a button. Travelling for a procedure, no need to carry heavy files, just a health ID on your mobile app will do. Well, that's the promise coming in from the Modi government. Prime Minister has talked about it earlier as well, and today as well he reiterated that. But in a country which is still struggling with primary healthcare in remote corners, a country where concentration of health services and professional happens to be in the metros, in urban centre, is this a very ambitious project with lots of challenges? The next report takes you through that.
The COVID pandemic has pushed an estimated 230 million people back into poverty.
कड़ी मेहनत करके गरीबी से बाहर निकलने के लिए हर कोई कोशिश करता है और अचानक परिवार में एक बीमारी आ जाए तो सारी मेहनत मिट्टी में मिल जाती है। देशवासियों को अब एक डिजिटल हेल्थ आईडी मिलेगी। हर नागरिक का हेल्थ रिकॉर्ड डिजिटली सुरक्षित रहेगा।
नमस्कार। Today, the Prime Minister said that the new digital health ID will help to address this.
इन लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं।
This is how it will work. Every Indian will now get a digital health ID, which can be used to access all their health records. It can be used anywhere in India with no past paperwork required. Registries of healthcare professionals and facilities will be set up so that people can access it easily. This will create interoperability in the digital health ecosystem and ensure ease of doing business for doctors, hospitals and healthcare providers. It will also be available on a mobile app.
The poorest Indians who need health coverage do not use smartphones. How they will benefit from this digital mission is an unanswered question.
Public policy experts say that the digital health mission does not address the basic problems in the healthcare system, like the number of beds or doctors and nurses.
From when is the absence of a healthcare ID a serious problem in access to healthcare? It is not so. Whatever contribution it has, it is overwhelmed by issues like the availability of skilled providers in many areas. And what is the value addition that a digital ID does for the patient?
While questions on privacy are being raised since this policy is being passed without a data protection law in place, given recent tragedies, it is hoped that digital health IDs will genuinely improve access to healthcare. In New Delhi, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
Moving on, how much longer will Covaxin will have to wait to get an approval from WHO? Seems like the wait just got a little longer. Vishnu Som picking that up from WHO as of this point. Vishnu, what are the details here and how is Bharat Biotech responding to this?
Well, our sources in the World Health Organization have indicated to us that the clearance as far as Covaxin is concerned is going to take a little bit more time. Now, on the 1st of October, there is a strategic advisory group meeting of the World Health Organization. That is not necessarily going to be looking at the end user licensing or the emergency use licensing of Covaxin. That's going to be done by a separate entity. When is that entity actually going to meet? No date has been set. Why has no date been set? Because questions or more questions have been asked of Bharat Biotech, technical questions about certain components in the vaccine. When will those be answered? When will those be sent in? And when will that emergency use authorization committee actually meet? There's no clear answer to that. They need to get a complete dossier first. At the moment, the dossier, as far as the World Health Organization is concerned, of this particular vaccine remains incomplete. How does this affect Indians? It profoundly impacts Indians who are looking to travel abroad. If it's not a WHO approved drug, then it means that most countries around the world will so far still not accept Covaxin. Consider the case of international students who received 2 jabs of Covaxin. They go to another country, for example, the United States, where they would need to quarantine. And many universities have been asking students that, look, we do not recognize Covaxin. There are cases as well of Indians going abroad who have had Covaxin getting a dose of another vaccine. And that's problematic because the science over there is still weak. Sonal.
All right, so we got to wait longer for more clarity on that matter. Thanks, Vishnu, for joining us with the very latest. We're talking about vaccines. Let's look at the numbers and how they stack up today. Well, the pace did pick up today after falling about 25% from last week. Peak of an average 95 lakh doses a day. So that's good news of the day. As of 7:30 this evening, about 96,72,000 vaccines had been administered. About 16.3% of India now fully vaccinated. That effectively gets the number over there. But if you look at individual states, UP, Bihar, the problem and the numbers there very, very worrying. Less than 10% of the population is fully vaccinated. Goa and Chandigarh over 40%. But apart from the title, interesting to see that two of the states which have a high number of current COVID cases, that's Kerala and Mizoram, have fully vaccinated over 30% of their population. And only 7 states and UTs have actually done so. So why exactly are the numbers going up like that? Talking about numbers, let's take a look at that. 26,041 fresh cases today. That's 8% lower than yesterday. And the deaths in the last 24 hours, that's about 276. Yes, people are still dying of COVID in the country. It has not gone anywhere. Tests done in the past 24 hours, down by about 21.75%. Positivity rate a little less than 3% for the last 28 days. Exactly a year ago, the government of India had passed 3 farm laws. They lost a key alliance partner in the process, the Shiromani Akali Dal, and also these laws united several farm unions across the country. It's been a year of multiple protests, some even turning bloody. But even after a year of these protests, negotiation, mostly failed negotiation, the situation remains the same. The government will not roll back. The farmers won't settle for anything less. Politically, however, the farmers today have more support. But how long will it last? How exactly did this 1-year anniversary of the farm laws roll out on the ground? Take a look.
Farmers' frustration over the government's stand on farm bills breaking through. Bringing the national capital region to a standstill for several hours. The Bharat Bandh across states, Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, UP, Bihar, Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Called by the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, an umbrella body of over 40 farm unions, the Bandh was held from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., restricting movement on national highways and railway lines. In the morning, the Delhi-Meerut Expressway was blocked near the Ghazipur protest site, inconveniencing commuters.
परेशानी तो हो ही रही है। ये बेकार की चीजें हैं, इसमें कोई फायदा नहीं है। गवर्नमेंट जो कर रही है वो ढंग का कर रही है। किसान अपना पॉलिटिक फायदा निकालने के लिए सब कर रहे हैं।
आपको कितना समय हो गया जी यहाँ अभी खड़े हुए?
सर हो गया होगा 10-15 मिनट।
अगर किसी को दुखी करके हम प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं तो वो अच्छा नहीं है। पिछले 6 महीने से हम पहले ही दुखी हैं।
आम आदमी अगर रोज नौकरी नहीं करेगा तो खाएगा क्या? रोज करके खाना उसने दो।
This is the gentleman who just told us that his relative was unwell and suffered.
Those with emergencies were allowed to pass, like this man whose father suffered a cardiac arrest, had to be rushed to hospital. But farmers are adamant they will not give up.
इस बंद ने तो मुंह बंद कर दिया है लोगों का जो कह रहे थे कि सिर्फ उत्तर भारत का मामला है. Indeed, it's a problem and I want to apologize. I want to apologize to anyone who suffered because of our Bandh, but to a government which is not listening to the farmers after 10 months. You have to resort to something extraordinary.
Despite declaring that they'll protest in poll-bound states, farmers insist their protest is not political. We are protesting the government's actions, says farm leader Tikai. He also dismissed the UP government's increasing sugarcane prices as too little, too late.
हम तो केस निपटा कर जाएंगे, बिल्कुल फाइनल करके जाएंगे. इसका सरकार का पर्चा पाड़ कर जाएंगे, बिना पर्चा पाड़ू कर जाने के नियम. घोषणा पत्र में 375 उन्होंने लिखा और दिया 5 साल बाद में 350. तो जो डिफरेंस है इसको कौन देगा?
The BJP though insists that the farmers' plan to protest in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and Uttarakhand ahead of the polls is political.
देखो भैया, असल में कुछ राजनीतिक दल किसानों के ट्रैक्टर पर बैठकर अपनी ऊसर जमीन की जुताई में लगे हुए हैं. इसे कहते हैं कि किसानों के कंधे पे बंदूक और क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी का संदूक.
In Bengaluru, protesters found a unique way to make their point. In Tamil Nadu, there was no Bandh as the ruling DMK backs the farmers' demands. But left parties blocked roads across the state in solidarity.
Protesters led by the left parties are blocking the Anna Saleh, an arterial road in Chennai, and police are detaining them. In fact, recently the Tamil Nadu Assembly had passed a resolution demanding repeal of these farm laws, saying that these are anti-farmers and these laws push farmers backwards economically by several decades.
The protest seems set to continue, especially with elections ahead in many states. Tomorrow, farmers have called a panchayat in Chhattisgarh. Bureau Report, NDTV.
If Mamata Banerjee wants to continue being the Chief Minister of West Bengal, she has to win the by-poll in Bhawanipur. Now, for most chief ministers, this would be a foregone conclusion. It wouldn't be much of a contest, but it is West Bengal and it is BJP versus TMC again. So yes, there was high drama. There was fed-up tempers as well, and calls being made by BJP to suspend the polls altogether after BJP leader Dilip Ghosh was heckled allegedly by the Trinamool supporters. Now, Trinamool, of course, claimed that it is intentional provocation by the BJP.
নামলে ওরা হেরে যাবে তাই গায়ে গুন্ডা দিয়ে এখানে প্রচারকে ব্যাহত করার চেষ্টা চলছে. এইভাবে গণতন্ত্রকে হত্যা করে যারা জিতেছেন মণিপুরের মানুষ তারা ঠিক করুন, এই হিংসা আর হত্যাকে স্বীকৃতি দেবে না, তারা গণতন্ত্র দেবে.
Their effort is to create trouble because they know they're not going to win the election. Today Dilip Ghosh went to the Jagubazar area. There is a certain resentment against Dilip Ghosh because before elections he used a lot of bad language against Mamata Banerjee.
Amazon, possibly the most famous portal in the country, is like the East India Company 2.0. Those very strong comments are of the RSS, the ideological parent of the BJP. In fact, on the cover page of the RSS Weekly, Jeff Bezos makes an appearance with the allegations that Amazon paid crores of rupees in bribes of favorable government policies. Not just that, RSS-linked Weekly has also raised concerns about the content on Amazon Prime, saying that it's been releasing movies and television series that are against the Indian culture.
आर्थिक निर्णय, आर्थिक स्वतंत्रता पर और सांस्कृतिक स्वतंत्रता पर तीनों ओर से आघात करती हुई लगती है. और यही काम ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने किया था, यही काम आज अमेजन करती हुई लगती है. भारतीय ब्रांड्स की हत्या, जहां रिटेलर्स ये कहने में भी नहीं चूकते कि बहुत सारे ब्रांड्स की हत्या एक इस भीमकाय कंपनी ने कर दी है.
So nobody takes what RSS says seriously anymore. Having said that, the issue of Amazon, as raised by my senior colleague Mr. Randeep Singh Surjewala last week, is a serious issue and it merits everybody's attention. The kind of allegations on Amazon that have come to light are very serious in nature and they cannot be ignored.
So the Congress saying the allegations can't be ignored either. But Amazon has come up with the response now, and they've talked about how 25 lakh MSMEs work with Amazon in India, including sellers, artisans, weavers as well. And they've gone to talk about the impact their businesses had on small sellers. But let's go across to Akhilesh now to try and understand what exactly is the trigger behind these comments. And they are not just any comments. Putting Jeff Bezos on their cover story, talking about how they're almost against Indian ideology, almost anti-national content being put on Prime as well. What exactly led to this?
Well, Sonal, as we know that the small traders, the small kirana shop owners, they have been traditionally BJP and RSS supporters throughout in the past 60, 70 years. In every election, in every meeting, they contribute for the BJP. But there's a message that they feel threatened due to the entry of all the big e-commerce companies, especially Amazon. And the Panjan story says that at least 50,000 such people, they have lost their jobs, their shops due to e-commerce companies. And that is why this is the trigger, especially for this kind of attack on Amazon. But of course, we know that how the Amazon itself has come under scrutiny due to some allegations that it has fed a huge amount of legal professional fees in the past 2 financial years. And the government itself has come out and saying that it may probe all these allegations, though Amazon itself is saying that it is conducting an internal inquiry. But of course, we know, Sonal, for that when we compare this past 7-8 years of Modi government with the Vajpayee government era, we know that RSS affiliate organizations like Swadeshi Jagran Manch, Bharatiya Kisan Sangh, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, they were on the street at that point of time every second day. They were opposing the government policies, economic policies and everything. But in the past 7-8 years, they are keeping quiet because this is an agreement between the RSS and the BJP. But now this is being sharpened, and we have seen that in the past month, the target was Infosys, and of course the finance minister herself had to come out and distance the government from the attack which was mounted on Infosys. But now the second company, Amazon, it has been targeted. But of course, I think the government will not be saying much about this because the government is not happy the way Amazon is conducting its business.
All right, so there's the legal issue to be looked at, and then there is the imagery of Amazon Prime content as well. I wonder how young India is actually going to look at these allegations. Thanks, Akhilesh, for joining us with the very latest. Let's quickly bring you the visuals of the day coming in from Bengaluru. Disturbing ones, really. An old building collapsed in Wilson Garden neighborhood today around 11:40 a.m. No casualties, injuries were reported, but just look at how it came down. It was built in 1962. Fortunately, most of the occupants were away at work when the building collapsed. Those still inside had been alerted by their neighborhood and the neighbors as well to plaster and falling ceiling pieces of debris over there. And that dramatic video really coming in as a major shock. Meanwhile, red alert has been sounded in Telangana following cyclone Gulab there. Non-stop rain has been seen in Hyderabad, several other districts as well. Extremely heavy to very heavy rainfall predicted over there. More than 20 centimeters rain expected in Telangana districts. Heavy rain in Andhra Pradesh districts too. Several trains have been diverted, and the GHMC has issued advisory on do's and don'ts.